don't know, there's no drip anymore. See, you can't hear it. So, I woke up this morning and it was overflowing my sink, and I don't know, I took it as a sign that the drip of I don't know, I think that it was dripping this whole year before, but really the last 8 months, so yeah, this year. And I took it as a sign of my insanity, slowly becoming more insane. But then I realised also this morning it overflowing was a sign, or I took it that way. So I got a plumber to come in, and it costs a lot of money, but anyway. And now there's no longer a drip. So, so that's really good. But a few nights ago, Sunday night actually, I went on a sort of I guess you would say it's a date, with with the kind one, with Atif, the kind one, and it's that thing I realised. Like I opened up, I had a letter in my bag at the I wrote a song. Well, it's not a song. I just recited the letter actually. At the bottom of my bag, my little white tote, like shopping bag almost. And I was going to give it to him with a piece of orange chocolate. And I realised, I just wasn't vibing it. So I wrote a song called No Vibe. And so then I created this whole album because of how I felt, and it's a split album in a way between the sort of ideas of like him as a Sufi and Kolkata and the Black Rose. So the album is Black Rose. And the other half being that day, Sunday, and he turned out to be high. We had arranged to meet prior, like a few days before or like that. And I thought I would take him to this African Senegalese bar I go to, where it's like sort of very bohemian, I guess you would say. And it's totally different to probably a lot of the things that he would work in. I think he's corporate, he is corporate, and all of this sort of thing. And so it's real life, like drunks, refugees, migrants, me, other queers who are not part of like the scene, I guess, or on the apps or whatever else, not part of this thing, and of the the underground. And I just realised, like it's like what Albert Camus says, I opened my heart to the indifference of the world, and in a way, I hadn't fully until then, and then I realised with him that he was exhausted and he was coming down from a high, and he had just eaten a HSP, which is the halal snack pack, which I also wrote a song about. And actually, there's another song called Fiery Sunset, which I think I actually videoed, so I shall upload this onto this channel, and then we can make it a piece, so you can see the visual as well as the lyrical of my my attempts at music. So anyway, and then I wrote the second half, just off the cuff, and put electronic sort of synthy music to it. So I have it half Black Rose album. It sounds like, more piano, sort of almost a ballad, how I would imagine like a Sufi would do a ballad with a piano and harmonium. And then the other half is a kind of more modern, electronic, or I don't know how to exactly explain that. Electronic Sufi, I'm not sure. No, but yeah, so that's the Black Rose, and I realized more fundamentally, as I say, that he he doesn't care. If I had sent that to him, or if I had given him the letter, it wouldn't have really registered. Other than, oh, that's nice, you know. I remember as he left, as he wanted to leave it around very early, like 8, I don't know, quarter past 8 o'clock or something. And we only got there maybe an hour prior. And of course, to be fair, he had work in the morning, but it was deeper than that. It wasn't just as simple as that, because I mean, if one wants to stay somewhere, one will, right? If they're interested in the person or the environment. And so your actions always speak louder than your words, even when you're exhausted. Or almost actually, especially when you're exhausted, they speak loudest. Because it's almost like you're without inhibitions. It's as if you're drunk or you're sick or you're tired. It's very similar. You lack the resilience. Um, so so anyway, and yeah, as he left, I said, "Well, I'll walk you to the tram stop," and he said, "Oh no, no, it's fine. Just stay here. You can stay here and just enjoy and la la la." And I danced, so he saw me dance. He's like, "Oh, you're a good dancer," and I thought, "Oh, thanks." I mean, I felt like that coming from an Indian sort of meant something. You know, it's like coming from an African person, it means something if they say that you're. I think anyway. If they say you're a good dancer. I mean, if it was another white person, I'd say, "Oh yeah." But let's see you dance. But anyway, um, yeah. So as he left, I remember like saying goodbye to him and just trying to reach. And throughout the night, I was trying to be affectionate, a little bit affectionate, not really, but it didn't really go anywhere, and he didn't want to. You know, it was that sort of very subtle. Um, it's a, yeah, it's okay sort of thing, like that. And anyway, as he left, he sort of, I could tell in his eyes, he was so happy to get away, like for a flash, just a flash of this, so happy to go, you know. And it's that thing I realise, you know, with just generally with people, but especially with people who you've been with, is that of course if they don't respond back to you, why do you pursue it? Why do I pursue it? Why did I constantly be the one that would initiate contact again or say something or whatever? And I realise that of course it's my own insecurity and my own want for this romantic ideal, which I'm dismantling. And I think that's the thing. I cried so much yesterday, which is Monday, um, about this, about him, about the night, but also of course, a wider and deeper sense about what I've done with this music, what I've done in exhibiting myself in such a vulnerable way, really, if I'm honest. I've been very open about how I feel, my capriciousness in these feelings, my hate and love, I guess, or my veneration and my detestation at the same time of these people, of myself, of culture, of reality, of the time that we're living in, I'm living in, and of these sort of these love affairs, which, as I say, we're not going to go anywhere. I mean, I realized about rejection. Rejection, um, it doesn't matter, because in the sense that if someone rejects you, it's not necessarily a sign of you; it's a sign of them, right? And so, in that sense, it's a filtering device. Like what you know, there's no point trying to go after someone who rejects you. What's the point in that? There's plenty more fish in the sea, sure, but also it's more like self worth. Don't pursue someone that rejects you. Don't pursue someone that debases you or trashes you or whatever. That's more extreme. Those things. I mean, not that I felt that any of these men did that with me. Actually, they were all of them were kind. All of them were very open and vulnerable in their own way. Actually, and that's what, of course, led to our intimacy. But underneath that, though, at the same time, is a sort of one can't run away from, or you can't deny that there was desperation and loneliness. Because, of course, all of them I met through an app, all of them I met through a grinder. And so that, I mean, that tells you, I mean, I was also lonely and desperate, I mean, to use it, or to navigate myself into those, yeah, relationships, really. Um, and of course I can talk about you know um, the panther, the jaguar, all of these ones as well. And I mean, I even just talked to the jaguar today. The jaguar today. so many, so many felines. Um, and I just got that thing. I was like, hi, how are you? I hope everything's alright. And sending you some love and light, hopefully that you're well and just genuinely. And because I thought, well, if I start a conversation, maybe I'll end up sending him the music. But no, because the response I got was sort of like, yeah, I'm good, good. And then it's like XX, which is sort of like kiss, kiss, but it's almost like full stop, like, yeah, I'm good, I'm good. Like, see ya. It's kind of like, when you kiss someone, like when you kiss someone on the cheek as you go by, or go away, like, say goodbye. It's kind of like that. It's like a homosexual thing. Anyway, in writing. But that's not the point. The point is that it was very sweet. He's like, yeah, I wish the same for you. But again, it's that thing of messaging, like a message, right? And I realised, the messages you have to mirror them. So if they send a small one, you send a small one. If they send a big one, you send a big one. And if you send a big one, they send a small one. Well, that's how you read it. That you read it with, okay, well, they're not really interested in meeting up again, and probably not anything else, i.e. a relationship, obviously, but also even like a relationship in the sense of not a romantic one, but a friendship. And that's, I don't know, it's that thing where you realise, you're kind of just two ships in the dark passing by each other, like that. Life is so often like that. And I feel that that's probably the same for most people, actually. Um, it's just that we don't talk about these things. It's just not really spoken about the reality of life in this way. People get into the sort of quagmire, as I did, the quagmire and the vortex of desire and of wanting stuff, and this the ideology of romanticism. Let's call it, which has its genealogy back hundreds of years, but in essence talks about this sort of hallmark moment, like a romantic comedy sort of thing of, they meet cute and you fall in love, and it's all very, there's a bit of drama, but eventually it all turns out well. That's just not reality. Most of the time, that's not reality at all. Most of the time, intimacy is a battleground. Love is a war. Love is a war. This idea of interpersonal love like that, this sort of very intense, very hyper-focalized form of interpersonal expression and obsession. I mean, love in this sense is a circular emotion which ends up being a noose. It's not actually anything. It's a mental illness. If you said that if it was someone behaving like that in any other context, you would go, that person's fucking crazy. If you replace the love with fear, or the love with sadness, or the love with anger, it instantly becomes a mental illness. You know what I mean? And I think that's really, really interesting. The same pathology, the same behavioural patterns that are exhibited in love, in this sense. So anyway, and then I thought about, the Zen idea of grace and discipline, and the ideas around the Bodhisattvas and the Lotus Sutras. They talk about this idea of loving kindness, that the Bodhisattvas do, which are sort of like the Bodhisattvas. Once I read somewhere are sort of like the Jedi Knights of Buddhism, which I thought was a rather apt way of sort of summing it up. But yeah, and so I thought to myself, that's me. That is much more me. So you give your love to the unlovable, in essence. You love things which are harder to appreciate. It's more, I think, it sounds a little bit, but I think it's more sophisticated. It's more divine, actually, in a way, in a weird sort of way. It's not as pedestrian. And I think that's always what I've been like up until about 2018, when all these people in my life dropped dead in quick succession, about a dozen people in about 4 months. And I don't know anyone else that's gone through that. And I didn't know anyone who'd gone through that. And I didn't have any way to reach out to anyone to know. There was no frame of reference for me. I was totally sailing into the ocean of darkness by myself. because although some, excuse me, although other people shared some of the deaths, they didn't share them all like I did. And one of the reasons I dance actually is because one of my friends was murdered, and he was a dancer. And yeah, but I think I can dance really very well because of him. He taught me how to dance, and yeah, he was Australian, half. I'm not sure what his mother is. Like, I think she's. I'm not sure if she's Arabic. I don't know where in the Middle East. But anyway, his father was African American, and so he always had this really incredible presence about himself, this incredible sense of self, and he really exhibited this, his character, his personality, his soul, through his dance, through dancing. And I feel like quite a direct affinity with this actually. In the intervening years, I didn't really start dancing until after he died, actually. And like at the other night with the kind one at the USO, I danced. I always dance there on a Sunday. That's where you can find me. If I get in. It's where I dance, yeah. So it's, to West African music, and I really love it, and I really, really love it so much. And the little group of people that go there, and it's very intimate, it's very small, it's not even a dance floor, it's just literally just a little walkway. And there's something about it that's really bloody magical, and I feel so alive. But up until, the day after the kind one, so the day after that, so Monday, yesterday, I realised I was so ruled by my emotions throughout this whole thing. I've been so directed by my emotionality. So of course, that's how I've been able to fuel such a monumental amount of work in such a small period of time. Is that I've been guzzling jet fuel. I've been consuming amounts of my own emotions, I guess, and my own feelings about all of these people, especially, of course, the Panther, but many others, of course, as you can see throughout the list, the playlists of albums and records. And I realised that that's something I now realise that I have to stop doing that because I'm going to burn out. And also, I think I realised with the way he behaved that he's a blueprint, he's a litmus for all of the rest. I wouldn't send my thing to the Jaguar either. Now I realise, because his tone of the way he spoke, replied to me in the messages, tells me everything I need to know if I just listen to my instinct. If I let my ego be suspended and not go, I want to send this because I made it and I'm the big artist or something. No, that's not wise, and that's not poised, and that's not something towards, I don't know, something bigger, divine, something bigger than myself. And I think that's fine. I don't need to send it. That's what I really realised. I don't need to send it. I really mean that though. Whereas before I didn't mean it. But now I do mean it. In the sense, it's emotional, it's definitive. I don't need to send these things to these people. I made them as a way to celebrate and to express them, and also myself, and figure out myself and what I was feeling, and contextualize it through a sort of double mirroring of seeing myself through the other person, the other period. And I think that that's where I've reached this today, and I don't know if it's to do with the plumbing, probably. Like, I don't have this drip. And so for the first time in more than a year, there's silence as I send you this message, as I record this. It's not this drip, 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 for example. In affinity, or in parallel with my sanity dripping away, where it felt like. And now, I'm coming back to philosophers and things like this that I knew about and I read about, and that really galvanized my life and saved me from dying, suicide or whatever, when I was 19, 20, 21, 22. So a decade ago, when I was young and not knowing what life was, I looked to philosophers, to writers who did know, who were old, very old when they died, and they lived full lives on the fringes of in the fringes or on the fringes of society. They weren't like myself. They're not people who are mainstream in any capacity, and that for me is like, okay, that's what it is. My life, I have to accept. What I realized again is acceptance is your greatest weapon in life. It's the greatest thing you have in your entire life. It's the greatest thing. There is nothing else greater than acceptance. If you can accept your life and yourself as you are right now, you're free. You're free. I said it. I said it last night. I wrote it, I think, but I also said it. I was talking to my mother, and I said I would prefer my freedom. No, I said it to a bar, the guy at the bar at Uso, because I was down after Atif left, and I said it to him like, you know what? Actually, I realized I would prefer my freedom to love any day of the week. I would prefer my freedom to falling into the sort of agony of love, or being having the, if this is what love even remotely feels like, what I've experienced the last little while, the last 2-3 years, or some form of this deep affection, this deep want, this kind of emotional nostalgia, which was a pure illusion. And of course, I say this in the lyrics. It's funny when you write things lyrically and it's almost subconscious. It bubbles up. You don't even know that you wrote it, and like that. As it actually, it's very explicit. It means almost exactly what it says, and you kind of are thinking to be poetical and lyrical, but it turns out to be exactly the truth. I guess, as you see it, perhaps, but nevertheless, a truth, an emotional truth, and that's what I realised. Yeah, I just realised, you know what? At the end of it, I would rather be free than to fall into the grip of love, the vice-like grip of love, because like life is absurd, and you only get one life, and I'd rather be Sisyphus happy than Sisyphus in love. And so yeah, so I think for me, I'm not going to stop making music. I thought I might, actually, the last week. I really thought that, or the last few days, I really thought, what the hell am I doing? What is all of this? But then I realised, you know what? I remember something my friend sent to me years ago, which was, she said, well, you can't just love one person. You can't just be with one person. You can't just devote your entire existence to one or two other people. You have to spread yourself thinly over the largest possible area of people. And that she meant like you just live your life, and other people will see it and will be inherently inspired by it, surely enough. And the same with your creativity. Just be as creative as you can, as interesting as you can, as yourself as you can. Accept yourself, and then be like that, like you're mad. Like just be not mad and crazy, but be like that with all your passion, with all your energy. Be yourself. Be yourself, and society, like a society or a collection of people, will form themselves around you. Not like acolytes, not like apostles, but rather like people who are, I don't know what's the word, resonant. Like you radiate them. Like flowers in the sun. The sunflowers, they turn towards the sun. And I think, in a way, that's always happened to me anyway. Before I was even an adult, and I was always been like in primary school or in creche, in like kindergarten. I was always like that. The kids would always be following me or asking me things or whatever. And I think that that's the thing. I always felt like that. I always felt this thing. I'm like older than myself. I've got like an old soul or something. People always said to me. And I also feel like I'm not for this world of hookups and drug abuse and alcoholism and working full time in a corporate job or being a pig farmer or being, I don't know, electrician or a plumber or being a I don't know, a professional in any real way. I'm not. I'm a bohemian. I always have been. I was always destined to be. I'm a queer man, always destined to be. I don't know I'm going to be normal. in that sense either. And but I need to be secure. I need to be secure, and then the way you can be secure is really to accept what you've been given by God, by life, by whatever fate, circumstance, rather than trying to weep over spilt milk. I mean, just move on from the spilt milk, just mop it up, and then just get on with it and have a glass of water or something. I mean, that's all you can really do in life. And I think letting go, so that's another major thing I realised. You know what? All of these things, the music, what inspired it, sure, it's brilliant in the sense that it's inspired all of this creativity, drawings, music, poetry, novels, whatever. But I have to let go of the emotions of it because they're starting to actually just eat me alive. They were, and I think now it's a matter of just simply shedding all of this on my shoulders, all this baggage, all this emotional turmoil. Excuse me, because I just think it's not intelligent, it's not wise, and it's just miserable. I mean, although I create all this stuff, most, if not all artists, when they're creating, are not in a happy place. They're not in a happy place. They're usually kind of quite miserable. And so it's like that. So I think I will still create because it's in me inherently to create, as it is, I think, in everyone. But in me, it's fully activated. I mean, I'm taking masses, like doses so massive they would kill a beginner type thing, of creativity and expressing that. And now that I found, or I'm finding really my voice, developing my voice by all of this experimentation. I can finally sort of feel like, okay, I can do this. Which is crazy. I never thought I could do it. I never thought I could make one song, one thing, one drawing, one page of a thing, a book, whatever. And, I just realised doing this, I never thought I could feel anything as deeply as I felt. I never thought I would feel something that was on towards the mountain of love, I never thought that. I never thought I could dance. I never thought I could do anything, actually. Um, I thought I'd always be a freak, an outsider, a weirdo. Um, and maybe I am, I guess, but I don't take that as something which makes me depressed. I don't think I ever really did, but I don't feel like I need to conform fundamentally. I just don't feel that I don't want to. I look around me and I go, no, I'd rather share and give unconditional love, loving kindness. I guess is a nicer way to say it, actually, a more practical way. Um, and walk with my beauty in the sense, of openness, like vulnerability, I guess that is really, but an openness to the world and its general indifference to me, actually. And the liberation in that, though, right? Like, the fact that we are all insignificant means that we can be extraordinary upon what we interpret to be extraordinary, surely. But it's that thing, that's what really got me over the hurdle a few months prior um, creating music. I just thought, well, let's create it. Why not? Um, so yeah, but I don't. But I don't. You know, I don't need to send these records to these people specifically. That's not the point. That's just not really how life works either. I realized because they're not going to fall into my arms, and I'm not going to fall into theirs. And it's not going to be. There is. I was reminded by a great writer and philosopher. There is no great dark man. There is no one coming to save you and or me. And be content with that. It means you're you and you have total control. Like in your ability not to control anything, you actually have total control in the sense that the only question you should ask is, does this matter? That they don't love you, that they do. That you create music that no one listens to, or, you don't. Doesn't matter that you can't find a job. Doesn't matter that your mother doesn't love you. Doesn't matter that you know you're not traditionally desirable. Doesn't matter. I don't know. It's your life, baby. But for me, I don't think a lot of high percentage, 96%, 97% of the time that a question is answered with no. It doesn't really matter actually. Because I realised, sending these, I thought to myself, if I sent them, if I didn't send them, I would regret it. But that was also in the sort of vortex of emotionality where I thought I couldn't think straight, I couldn't think clearly. I was going back and forth like this, totally capricious. 1 minute I'm sending it, next minute I'm not. Next minute I am, next minute I'm not. And I thought to myself, it was just absolute nonsense. It's ludicrous. I have to somehow make a stand in myself and just go, you know what, that's enough. Get real. Reality check, get real. Take action within yourself, be assertive, and accept the limitations, really. That's what we're talking in a sense about, of myself, of life, of reality, and of my own creativity as well, and then go from there. And so that's where I'm at. I'm at that step where I go from there. So, you know. But anyway, so I'm going to wrap this up here because it's a bit, it's 30 minutes, well done.